there. Can we talk about Ocelots?
Standing on the edge of the crater, like the prophets once said.
Even if you aren't super knowledgeable about the world of video games, if you're a person on the internet, you're probably familiar with the franchise of Metal Gear. Created by Hideo Kojima in 1987, Metal Gear and its successors remain some of the best-selling and critically acclaimed video games of all time. Known for their groundbreaking gameplay, visually stunning graphics, fantastic scoring, and complex themes such as the war economy, PTSD, and the true price of peace, Metal Gear is not without its criticisms. Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain struggled with issues in its narrative and rather lackluster ending, attributed to Kojima being allegedly fired by Konami Digital Entertainment, and at times the game's views of women can be polarizing. Metal Gear Solid 3: Snake Eater introduced us to the boss, possibly one of the most well-written, fully recognized women in video games.
That is true!
While Metal Gear Solid 5: Ground Zeroes had a main female character dying due to a bomb that was forcibly inserted into her vagina.
That is also true!
A lot of content has been made by other internet YouTubers and video gamey people about said themes and issues in the series, so I'm gonna skip over all of that and talk about one of the lesser discussed aspects of the series, Ocelot. First appearing in Metal Gear Solid, Revolver Ocelot starts off as another boss fight the main character, Solid Snake, fights on his way to the final confrontation with Liquid Snake, his genetically engineered twin brother.
So it was you and I, two fertilized eggs with exactly the same DNA. But they weren't finished yet. They used me as a guinea pig to create a phenotype in which all of the dominant genes were expressed. To create you. I got all of the recessive genes.
I don't think biology works that way. Ocelot is not a nice guy. He's cruel, sadistic, and forces the player into a button-mashing game from hell, threatens to torture another character to death if you lose, and along the way, in the middle of all this, he reveals that he was in league with Big Boss, the legendary super soldier that Solid Snake is a clone of, who was killed in Metal Gear Solid 2 Solid Snake when he burned to death after being set on fire with a lighter and a can of hairspray. I love these games. There's also some interesting innuendo, Ocelot says.
I love to reload during a battle. There's nothing like the feeling of standing
Ocelot survives the events of the game and in a twist at the end reveals he was working for the president all along, and he returns in Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty with the arm of Snake's now dead genetically engineered twin brother grafted onto him. He continues to be a thorn in our hero's side and ends up betraying the president, revealed to be another clone of Big Boss. No, his name is not Gas Snake. Yeah, this always made me sad too. Declaring he was in allegiance with the Patriots all along, the game's de facto Illuminati. He survives to live another day. So far Ocelot is compelling, but not a super extraordinary antagonist of these games. Then, this happens. Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater is a divergent from the other Metal Gear games, as it's a prequel with the protagonist being not Solid Snake, but Naked Snake, a soldier who will become the notorious war criminal Big Boss. Set in 1964 at the height of the Cold War, a pre-criminal, pre-crispy Naked Snake is caught up in stopping both a weapon of mass destruction, but also his mentor, the Boss, who has defected to the Soviets. It's my favorite game in the franchise, and one of my favorite games of all time. It's full of suspense, action, and real honest heartbreak. It also introduces a much younger Ocelot and shows how him and Big Boss first met. It goes about as well as you'd expect. A cocky young rival who repeatedly is bested by the protagonist is not super unusual in storytelling, but Ocelot's fixation on Snake definitely is.
Eva, I wanted to ask you about Ocelot.
Yeah, I know. He's pretty infatuated with you, isn't he?
Eva, what happened to Ocelot?
Can't get enough of him, huh?
He doesn't trust you.
I know. So it's me you're worried about then.
Eva.
I'm fine. I know how to handle him. Besides, I think he's got his mind set on someone else right about now.
What?
Figure it out.
Eva, about the contents of the backpack you got for me.
Is there something missing?
Yeah, all of my food.
That wasn't me.
So who was it?
It was Ocelot.
Ocelot?
He said he wanted to eat the same things you did.
Why would he do that?
You haven't figured it out?
No.
You are dense.
How can the legendary cobras be beaten so easily? He's good. Fallen for him.
And this isn't some fangirl shippy idea. Hideo Kojima himself even described Big Boss and Ocelot's first meeting in a romantic fashion, saying, "Snake and Ocelot. From the first moment they set eyes upon each other, they both fell into liking with each other. It is a pure love." At the end of the game, after one final showdown and an intimate exchange of their real names, Ocelot and Big Boss part ways. Ocelot shows up 2 more times in the Metal Gear games. Metal Gear Solid 4, where he returns as the antagonist in an attempt to see Big Boss's mission to the end, but not before giving his clone son a kiss and dying in his arms. And in another prequel, Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain, which, while one of the weaker games in the franchise, does have a middle-aged Ocelot showing up on a white horse to rescue the now renamed Venom Snake, and just full-on coming out and saying he's in love with Big Boss.
It doesn't matter why she's here. She works for you now. She's in love with the legend. What makes you so sure? I was the same way once.
Despite all of this, when discussion of LBGT representation in video games comes up, Ocelot is never mentioned. In fact, most of the gaming community practically trips over themselves trying to play off Ocelot's utter loyalty, infatuation, and kissing a guy is guy things. You know, manly dudes. The most infamous one being, according to a member of the GameFAQs message board, Ocelot doesn't have feelings for Snake, it's a Russian taunt. Hideo Kojima has never been shy about having LBGT representation in his video games. Vamp, Volgin, and Strangelove are all canonly queer characters, and they don't have the weird disregard around them that Ocelot has. Usually. Ocelot in the games he's featured in is often responsible for the actions that drive the game forward, even if it's usually revealed towards the end. And as it's stated, he's doing this all for Big Boss, or after the events of Metal Gear Solid 2 Solid Snake, Big Boss's legacy. His love of Big Boss is what drives him to go to such drastic lengths in order to create a world that Big Boss dreamed of. It's safe to say, if Ocelot had been a woman, this Russian taunt, comrades-in-arms nonsense wouldn't be brought up the way it has been. Ocelot is far from a morally righteous character. His actions throughout the course of the game are cruel and manipulative, and he tends to tread very close into falling into the queermen or sadistic deviants trope the way that Volgin and Vamp do. But the need for LGBT representation in video games is important, and while steps have been made, many queer characters in these games tend to be simply romance options from RPG games, such as Dragon Age and Mass Effect. Some are well-developed characters in their own right, regardless if you romance them or not, while others... LGBT representation in video games where the character is not a romanceable option, and their sexuality is just an aspect of a fully realized and well-rounded character, is making steps, and hopefully will continue to do so. And while he might be a small part of that, I hope Ocelot's character and the impact he has on the franchise as a whole is addressed in future talks about LGBT representation in video games. That's all for today. Thanks for letting me talk about Ocelot.